I just feel so bad. I'm just rushing everybody through these answers. But now I'm very pleased to introduce Doug Galen, who is not only a lecturer at the Stanford School of Business, but also the CEO of RippleWorks. Come to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. Blockchain in 7 minutes. Here we go. So before we can even understand whether blockchain is evil, good, what are the implications, what is it, and how is it being used? And so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about that. In both my roles at Stanford and at RippleWorks, I care deeply about what is going to empower and help social entrepreneurs to achieve their mission. There is no more hyped platform right now than blockchain. And so what we wanted to do was understand what is reality and what is hype. And so first of all, in terms of hype, Long Island iced tea. Has anyone heard about Long Island iced tea? They decided to change the name to Long Island Blockchain. Guess what? Stock price went up 400%. True story. I cannot make this up. That's the hype. But the promise. So in terms of coffee makers, smallholder farmers represent 80% of the coffee made in this world. They average $2 a day in income. Bext 360 out of Denver, Colorado has created a way to use blockchain to be able to pay farmers quicker, which means kids can stay in school, they can get fed, as well as monitor the entire value chain so that the price at the end can actually come back to the farmer. That's reality. So what we wanted to do, before we can really talk about even the reality, there's a basic fundamental of blockchain. Now, I'm going to take on the death-defying act tomorrow of explaining blockchain in 47 seconds, but that's tomorrow at breakfast. If we only take one thing, it is that cryptocurrency does not equal blockchain. We think of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is this thing called cryptocurrency. There's 1,500 cryptocurrencies in the world now. That's interesting, that's fascinating, that's a currency. I use the iceberg here because that's what we all see. Underneath the water is the blockchain. And the blockchain is a technology platform that is fascinating. There are 4 big promises of blockchain. If you want to take blockchain down to what matters and what would be interesting to you, the first is transparency. An example of transparency, today $143 billion in aid is sent around the world. 30% of it is lost because of corruption or fraud. What if 100% could get to the end user? Blockchain has transparency so that you know where it goes. Immutability. That is a really fancy word for tamper-proof. So voting, as an example, we all know what's going on in terms of fraud, in corruption of voting. We also know physical safety as it relates to voting. What if you could vote? There's organizations now, Votum, has created a way to actually vote using blockchain. Lower cost payments, $500 billion sent in remittances around the world. The promise of blockchain, which has been proven, is that you can reduce the cost to near zero. Disperse is actually funding money into Swaziland and eliminated 98% of the cost to be able to move money around the world. And the last is identity. Interestingly enough, in this country, in the developed world, we talk a lot about limiting our identity, making it smaller, getting rid of the identity. Well, you know what? There's 2 billion people who are unbanked in the world. They want an identity. They want to get access to money, and banks will never admit them into their banking system. So how do we help? These are the promises of blockchain. So here's what I wanted to do. This is the promise. I wanted to understand the reality. And so with a team of researchers at Stanford, we dug into 193 initiatives, blockchain initiatives, and we had 2 questions. One, what is the state of blockchain in terms of blockchain for good? What industries are being used? What are the use cases? And then second, we wanted to form an opinion of, is it reality or is it hype? Full report, it's coming out tomorrow. I'll show you a URL at the end where you can go. And then there's a breakfast tomorrow as well if you want to hear about it. So here's a couple of things that we learned. First of all, the leading sector. We expected the leading sector of blockchain to be financial inclusion. Interestingly enough, 2 times higher were health-related activities in terms of how blockchain could assist in the health industry. really was around record keeping, around tracking drugs to make sure that they're being stored properly, and counterfeit drugs. 700,000 people a year die from counterfeit drugs just in malaria and polio alone. You can see the other major categories right here: financial inclusion, philanthropy, democracy, energy, agriculture. We then wanted to look at what are the primary use cases, and records and verification and payments were the top, no big surprise. But you can see the other categories as well. Now we wanted to go to hype. So we asked a couple of questions. The first was, okay, blockchain. Is it transformative to what you're doing? Is it materially better than what you're doing? Or nah, you're just Long Island iced tea using the name. And we were interested to see that 86% of the blockchain initiatives that we identified and studied were either materially better or completely transformational and revolutionary. There was 14% that fell into the hype category. The other that we looked at to understand is impact close or not? And this surprised us. 55% are going to have impact on individuals in the next year. Conversely, 74% of every organization we studied are either in pilot or concept stage. But we were intrigued to see that impact is a little closer than we had thought. So I talked about the 4 areas. The thought is, if you're thinking about using blockchain in any way, the need that you should be trying to solve is around transparency, immutability, and lower cost payments and identity. Lastly, I just will reference here is that if this is of interest to you and you want to dig in, we're going to dig into this in a big way tomorrow morning at Oxford Town Hall. If you're interested in attending, you can either show up, but better yet, send me an email so that we can get you on the list. That's Doug@RippleWorks.org. Doug@RippleWorks.org if you want to go to this breakfast, and we'll be publishing the report later today or tomorrow morning. Okay.
Thank you. You ran the gauntlet and succeeded in 7 minutes. So wanted to ask you, one of the key issues that we who work in the data world have is the issue of translation. So, whether you're a statistician trying to explain what your findings mean to a ministry official, or you are, in your case, trying to use an iceberg to describe a very complicated subject of blockchain to this community. So how, and in the case of blockchain, which can be confusing even to technologists, how do you take that technology and work with that and get input of non-technologists, especially in some of the communities that you're trying to engage? How do you do that? What kind of examples have you seen of where that translation is working effectively for mutual benefit?
The best translation in the real world is when you never see blockchain. Mm-hmm. It's a technology that is hidden behind what's being done. Mm-hmm. So there's an organization in the Philippines called Coins.ph. Mm-hmm. Coins.ph does remittance payments. They use blockchain to actually move the money. The user never sees the blockchain. Mm-hmm. So one of the key things here is to understand it's people first, technology second. Mm-hmm. Solve the need of the person. And then the technology, in theory, you should be agnostic to what the technology is. Mm-hmm. Most of us don't care about the technology that powers the iPhone or the Android. Mm-hmm.
That's true. So it's like a beneficent iceberg.
It's a let's go with that.
Great. So now let's open it up to the audience. I saw your hand first.
The Australian government. A lot of those examples around identity, like Estonia has been doing e-government and identity for years without blockchain. We see mobile money without blockchain. How much is it really adding value?
So we are seeing in many cases, Estonia being one, there's 1,000 different departments in Estonia using Estonia. 1,700 different services are on top of that platform. These are really valuable services that could be ported to the rest of the world. If the governments can start to use blockchain, the poor do not have time to go to government offices. They don't have time to go to banks to collect money. So the potential is meaningful, and there are numerous examples. I just highlighted a few, and I don't know how I can do it here in this room, where they are actually doing some of the things I talked about. Disperse would be one, and I could go on.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is that Estonia had the expert architecture and using digital identity long before blockchain was in use. So, like...
Yeah. So where's blockchain fit into this? So great. So yes, And blockchain is the next iteration. So the ability to move money anywhere around the world right now, that was never possible. Even if we think we're using Venmo or PayPal, it's still going through a bank. So that was not something that was possible till today. That is a fundamental use. Digital identity would be another fundamental use. So they are happening. I just can't go through them all. It is in the report. We have 16 different case studies.
All right, unfortunately, we have to wrap. I know there were more questions on this topic. I'm sorry, but you know what? He's having a breakfast tomorrow morning. Doug at RippleWorks. So you should come to that. Thanks, Doug.